Thanksgiving Day is one of the most stressful events in the world.
We have very heavy rains throughout Texas with a big problem with flooding, and we will detail all of that coming up in just a few moments. But first, we're going to start off the Storm Watch segment with a look at our tropical update. We are still seeing a flare-up of clouds and thunderstorms here in the Caribbean. Zooming in closer, you can see those clusters of storms with a broad area of low pressure. An upper-level low here was helping to enhance some of the unorganized shower and thunderstorm activity yesterday. As that pushes off to the east, a ridge is building here over the Caribbean, so we could see some development here. However, on down the road over the next several days, we are seeing some of the forecast models put a very strong trough into the Gulf of Mexico. That would be bringing some very hostile upper-level winds over the area, so the timing may be just a bit off for that to develop any further, but we will study it very, very closely for you. Upper level low here that is stuck in neutral, it's not going anywhere. Neither are the waves that are bumping up into it, so we have seen more heavy rain in the Windward and Leeward Islands. Look at these winds that are coming across the Atlantic. We have the coast of Africa here. Those clouds are just being shot well off to the east very, very quickly, and that is preventing tropical waves from forming whatsoever. Nothing more than a cluster of thunderstorms here, and with those strong upper-level winds, we are not looking for anything to develop. We are watching the convection here around what is Hurricane Lester. That is pulling away from the coast of Mexico, which is right here. We do see some heavier rain bands pushing on through and some convection here, but the bulk of the heavier rain now offshore. So we are still seeing some of the waves and also potential for heavy rain along the coast of Mexico. But again, most of the convection now pulling away. Maximum sustained winds with Hurricane Lester at 100 miles an hour. The movement is to the west at 10 miles an hour. Some slight strengthening possible in the next 24 hours, but still with that movement off to the west, we are looking for things to look good here along the coast of Mexico as those hurricane force winds will be pulling away. Still have hurricane watches in effect here to the north and west of Acapulco. However, it's anticipated these will be dropped by the next advisory. We also have Hurricane Madeline up to the north with maximum sustained winds still at 75 miles an hour. Movement to the north at 6 miles an hour. And that general motion is expected to continue with landfall expected overnight or early tomorrow morning. We still have hurricane warnings in effect for this area here, shaded in red, and also for the yellow areas. That's where we have hurricane watches, the potential for hurricane force winds in the next 24 hours along the southern tip of the Baja California and also to the north here of El Dorado. The satellite map, not really looking too impressive early this morning, but the center is still out over the open waters, so it's shooting some of that convection up over the mountains, and we have some heavy rain expected here. And as it drifts up to the north, this will begin to weaken as it runs into the stronger mountains, still providing, however, very heavy rains and the potential for flash flooding and mudslides. As we take you farther west in the Pacific, we have Typhoon Babs with maximum sustained winds still at 75 miles an hour, with a northwest drift in the forecast for Babs, and we do see the potential for landfall in the next 36 hours in the central Philippines, also providing some very heavy rainfall. Flooding rains in Texas do persist, and we do have rivers that are out of their banks and near record levels. Colorado River and also the Guadalupe River showing signs of continued flooding, not only from today's heavy rain, but also yesterday's rain that is running off into the streams and also into the creek beds. Here's a look at the heavy rain as it streaks northward, raining at a rate of 1 to 2 inches an hour in Comal County near San Marcos. We've also had reports of very heavy downpours, and you are under flash flood warnings for Wilson and Hayes, Comal counties over the next several hours. It's dwindling a bit as it heads up to Shreveport and Houston, but you are under flash flood watches in Houston nonetheless. As we take a look at how much rain we can expect, the heaviest a little bit farther south and also east than yesterday as our front squeezes that a little bit farther to the south, and the strongest of the storms confined to the southern tip of Texas. Well, coming up next, we will take a look at that front that is plowing through the northeast and what kind of weather you can expect.
People in flood-ravaged parts of Texas begin assessing the damage. Will skies clear for the cleanup? We'll check conditions there and nationwide next on Weather Center.
Introducing the first ever daily protein remover for soft contact lenses, Optifree Super Cleanse. It keeps your lenses like new longer. Call and try it. Free.
Hello? A free sample? Free is good if the product is great. So what would be great is some cold, hard facts, right?
Fact. People who use Super Cleanse every day for 6 months said their soft contact lenses felt as comfortable as a pair less than a week old.
Contacts I start wearing in winter can feel as comfortable as new. Come summer, it's got to be hard work, right?
Super Cleanse is easy. Just one drop in your lens case overnight with Optifree Express multi-purpose solution. It's unbelievably simple.
Just one drop while I sleep. I'm dreaming. Now this free sample, please tell me it's not a one-time shot. Please tell me it cries out, try me again and again for a whole month.
Okay. We'll give you a 30-day supply free.
Sold.
Call now for your 1-month supply of Optifree Super Cleanse or buy some wherever lens care products are sold. Try it. Feel it. Believe it.
On Storm Watch today, we'll take a look at more rain in Texas and more flooding and where that rain is headed. Also, a cold snap coming into the states, a chance of some flurries on up into the Great Lakes. We'll tell you where the cold air is headed on Storm Watch after the tropical update. Dr. Steve Lyons.
Well, thanks very much, and welcome to the Tropical Update. We have a lot of interesting tropical weather as usual. Across the Atlantic, it's relatively quiet. The Pacific is very busy. We're talking about a typhoon, hurricane, and a storm in just a minute. Right now, let's look generally at the Atlantic Basin first, since it's closest to home. You see a lot of cloud out here. Most of this is a frontal boundary here. The thing that we're most interested in the Atlantic right now is this area right in here associated with a weak low-level circulation center, weak low-pressure center, and some convergence of the trade winds into that area, producing some fairly deep thunderstorm activity. And this time of year, that's where we expect the development to occur, October 11 to 20. Generally, the southwestern Caribbean is the area that we're interested in. When we look more closely at it, it's getting a little bit dark out here now. What we see is a circulation center that's out here to the west, somewhere right about in there. Very weak. The winds over the Yucatan Peninsula are out of the north. The winds out in here out of the southeast, and they're fairly strong in the central Caribbean, 20 to 25 miles per hour, converging into this low pressure axis here, producing all these thunderstorms. Now what we think is going to happen to this is it's not going to develop very rapidly, maybe pick up in intensity just a little bit, come north, and then a big area of high pressure is going to come down from the north and pull this off to the northeast before it really has a chance to really get going. But we'll have to watch that over the next couple of days. The timing on it is rather critical. But right now, that's our primary interest, and we'll keep you updated on that the next couple of days. Right now, very weak low pressure center. Gulf of Mexico quiet. As I mentioned here in the Caribbean, we've had some clusters of thunderstorms, and we can see these better here. This is this big east-west band of thunderstorms that we had roaring to the west over the weekend, passed through the islands here. And the islands are still there under some fairly good rain activity there. And some of the shower activities passed through, but we don't expect any development from any of these right now. Upper level flow is out of the west. Although when we have big clusters of thunderstorms, we need to keep an eye on them. Central Atlantic, fairly quiet. And as we go into the eastern Atlantic, strong upper level westerlies will preclude any development there. Now in the Pacific, we've been very active there. We have two systems to talk about. Here's our hurricane out here. Here's Hurricane Lester. We have a tropical storm Madeline that you can see is rapidly dying away. You can almost not see it anymore. When we get a closer look at these, here's Hurricane Lester. The good news is that it's been moving away from the coast. The latest advisory takes a little bit more northwest as we expected based on the satellite imagery. Here's the latest as of 2 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 14.7 north, 102.9 west. The good news is it's downgraded a little bit to 90 miles per hour as compared to 100, and it continues to move on a general westward track along the coast. Those hurricane watches that were up along the coast have been canceled, so there's no longer any hurricane warnings for Lester, so we're in great shape there. Now as we go to the north, we talk about Madeline. As we mentioned earlier, it looked like just a low-level vortex still left behind, and the Hurricane Center has seen that as we have at the Weather Channel here. Now it is a minimal tropical storm of 35 miles per hour, and it is tracking into the Gulf of California, and we can get the latest statistics on that. Here they are: 23.2 north, 108.3 west. That's basically 40 mile per hour winds, and moving to the northwest right into the Gulf of California at about 9 miles per hour. We don't expect too much out of that, but we'll have to keep an eye on it because it could flare back up with thunderstorms in there. The water here is fairly warm. We have some tropical storm warnings up and some tropical storm watches there, but right now we're not looking at anything real major. And out here, Babs continues to just hover to the east of the Luzon Island here, gathering strength. Now back to the weather in the United States with Mike Bono.
Thanks a lot, Steve. And a very active cold front and a lot of westerly winds with progressively colder air feeding on in from Canada. Already the threat of some snow flurries in northern lakes, and the threat of some more flooding in South Texas and the coastal area of Texas as that rain continues east of San Antonio. A number of counties between Austin and San Antonio still with flash flood warnings. More on Weather Center coming up next.
Dangerous flooding threatens parts of Texas, and some rivers are still rising. We'll show you where more rain is possible and where skies are clearing next on Weather Center.
Inside every Maryland travel guide is a great vacation just waiting to get out. Museums, restaurants, and shopping, sports, nature, history. It's all here, a new adventure on every page. Call 1-800-INDY-IS-FUN for a free copy. There's a lot to do out there, and it's all a lot closer than you think. So call now for your Maryland travel guide. 1-800-INDY-IS-FUN.
And Stormwatch is sponsored this hour by Walgreens. Let's get you updated on the tropics, then we'll talk more about the situation in Texas, which continues to be grim as the rain is still falling. First, though, the update from the tropics. We'll deal with the Caribbean and Atlantic first, then we'll go into the Pacific and give you the latest on Lester and Madeline, which has now been downgraded to just a tropical low. Here's the broad picture, and we're looking at several areas: Western Caribbean, north of Venezuela, and out through the islands. Let's focus in on each individual area and let you know what we think may happen. Well, one thing is for certain, the Gulf of Mexico, very quiet. Here's our upper level low. We've seen some flare up of some showers and thunderstorms over the past couple of hours, and that is helping to steer some of this moisture up through the Yucatan Channel, up towards Cozumel and back towards Jamaica and up through the Cayman Islands and into Cuba. What will happen over the next couple days? Well, we're not quite certain. This is certainly the climatologically favored area based on weather statistics over the past 100 years. This is one of the favored areas this time of the year, mid to late October. So it bears watching. Hurricane Hunter aircraft, the Air Force Reservists, those are the guys that fly in and out of the guys and gals which fly in and out of the hurricane's tropical storms. We're supposed to look at it today. They canceled their mission, but now they're rescheduled for tomorrow afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, to investigate this area, if necessary, to see what's going on. The worst case scenario, we think at this point, the worst case scenario would be this would become a tropical depression and may bring some rain up through the Keys and parts of the southern third of Florida. Again, that is the worst case scenario. Our tropical specialist, Dr. Steve Lyons, mentioned earlier today to us at our evening weather briefing. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Very little chance of anything developing any further or getting up to the Gulf Coast because we have that very cold air and those strong westerly winds diving into the Gulf the next few days. So anything that were to develop would scoot off very quickly in this direction. So we're just giving you the certainly the distinct possibility that something may develop, but it is certainly a low probability event. Moving out towards Venezuela and the Lesser Antilles, some showers continuing over the Leeward Islands, north of Venezuela with a trough of low pressure. Neither of these areas expected to develop, remaining basically stationary. The upper level wind flow is not favorable. Neither is the upper level wind flow here. Look at these clouds just racing off to the northeast. Those are the jet stream winds moving them quickly towards the coast of Africa. And again, this area is very unfavorable for anything to develop. this late in the season. The Cape Verde season basically from late July through August into September. Now let's switch our attention to the Pacific, where we've had plenty of action the past couple days. We have Madeline, which has now moved onshore and dissipated. Here's Hurricane Lester looking a little healthier this evening. But again, the good news here, it is pulling away. So we've got good news all around here. Madeline dissipates, does not create the severe flash flooding and mudslides we were anticipating a couple of days ago, and Lester continues to move away from the coast. Here's the latest on Lester, and another update is due within the hour. Winds of 90 miles an hour moving west at 12. Let me see if it's come in already. The pressure is at 975 millibars. But again, we want to emphasize that the hurricane is moving away from land, and here is the latest on Lester, and we can give you that. The wind's now still at about 95 miles an hour, up to 85 knots. It may strengthen a little bit more, but it continues to move off to the west at about 10 to 11 miles an hour. So no big changes as it moves away from the coast. There it is, creating some rough surf and big waves along the coast around Acapulco. But again, the main effect will be for shipping interest. This is Madeline, now downgraded to a tropical depression and now has been dissipated. So this will likely be the last advisory from the Hurricane Center on Madeline unless regeneration occurs. Moving northwest at 16, still bringing some moisture into the mountains of Mexico, but for all intents and purposes, you can see there's hardly anything left at all. And Babs, the typhoon, gaining